Welcome back, students. We're going to be looking at another problem from our midterm study guide. The problem reads, here is a graph that represents a function a defined by a of s is equal to s squared, where s is the side length of a square in centimeters. Now, what it's telling us basically, we're going to be looking at this graph, and this graph right here represents our function. Our function is a of s is equal to s squared. Whoops, squared. Okay. So that's the function that we're gonna be looking at. We're gonna be selecting all statements that are true. So in the midterm that we took the first time around, we had a lot of issues selecting all these statements that are true. So let me guide you with my thought process so that you understand how it is that I interpret these problems and I look at every answer choice carefully and try to see if it makes sense with my graph. So it says the vertical intercept is where the area of the square is 0. So the vertical intercept. So what does vertical mean? So this is vertical, this is horizontal. I'm looking at the vertical intercept. So vertical. So this graph right here. I'm gonna go ahead and erase that line. That part of the graph. So the vertical intercept. So where does my graph touch the the y-axis? Sorry, my graph starts right here, and that's where it touches the vertical intercept, right? So that's where my graph starts. So the vertical intercept is where the area is of the square is 0. So let's see, right here it says area of square, and the vertical intercept is 0. So that one is true. That statement is true. The next one says the vertical intercept is measured in inches. Well, let's see. The vertical intercept, again, vertical, horizontal, measured in inches. It says area of a square, it says in centimeters. So that is not true. We're measuring in centimeters. Okay. Then the next choice, the function has no maximum. The function has no maximum. Okay, this one can be a little bit tricky. You got to think about this. I think this might be helpful if you use a calculator. So if, let's see, the maximum is the highest value. So our graph, now I'm going to go ahead and erase this arrow. According to our graph, this is where our graph ends. However, that is not completely true. It only ends because our values only go up to 7 and 8. So let's see. Can I calculate s squared? So if I were to take this 8, so if I was to take this 8, let me erase this real quick. If I was to take this 8 and plug it into this formula, would it give me an answer? Let's find out. If I write 8 squared, does 8 squared have an answer? Let's see, type it into your calculators. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. Go ahead, type it in, type it in, type it in. So let's see, 8 times 8, that means it's 64. So 8 squared is 64. Can I do 9 squared? Does 9 squared have an answer? Yes. So I can keep doing this with any number after 8, right? So that means that the function, it'll keep going up, 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 and it has no end. So that means that that the function has no maximum. This one is true. You got to be careful with these. You got to be careful. If the graph just exits out the actual graph itself, so if it exits out the whole entire shape of the graph, then you may think it might not have a maximum because it continues forever. Okay. Next answer choice. The function has a minimum at 0. So let's see. The minimum is the lowest point of my graph. Basically, my lowest point on the graph is 0, right? So if we look at the graph, if we go down this way, where does my graph start? Well, my graph starts at 0 because 0 squared is still going to be equal to 0. I can't have negative numbers because if I have negative 1 squared, that is equal to 1. It's still a positive number, so that wouldn't make sense. Okay? So the minimum is at 0. That is true. And finally, our last answer choice. The function has a maximum value at a7. Well, we already determined that there is no maximum for our graph. So A7 cannot be a maximum value. So this one is not true. So the ones that are true was this first statement, this third statement, and the fourth statement. Those three were true. Okay. Hopefully this helps you out. Give the next problem a shot on your own. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm there to help. And see you in the next video.